All right, so there's a lot of debate that goes on amongst coaches and lifters on whether you should use the full snatch or clean and jerk in terms of the classical snatch and clean and jerk versus the power snatch or power clean and jerk, where you basically catch with the femur above parallel. And there's debates that go back and forth on whether we should use them or not in terms of general programming and training. And there are some interesting points of view on this, but really my take on this is not to forget the power snatch or power clean and jerk. There is definitely a time and place to use them. Of course, you know, the competition is the full snatch and full clean and jerk, and I do definitely wholeheartedly believe that you need to be specific in your practice and prepare the snatch and clean and jerk, and all the extra detours and various drills and complexes and things you do are not specific as you could be with the full snatch and clean and jerk. But that doesn't mean they don't have their time and place, and I use a variety of drills and complexes and things like that. It all just depends on the level of the lifter and whether they're beginner, intermediate, or advanced, or what their problems might be or why they might be occurring. So ultimately, the power snatch and power clean, of course, first and foremost to me is a very essential component of teaching a beginner how to lift. Now, most beginning lifters, if you think of, say, a junior or school age, or say even a master's level lifter, or even someone who's just a weekend warrior who doesn't have the flexibility and positions to do the lift, really doesn't have a whole lot of business doing a full snatch or full clean early on. Getting into that full receive position, the snatch or clean, with a compromising position is asking for trouble, especially when you don't have the pull phase of the lift mastered. It's hard enough to learn how to do the S curve and the proper pull for the snatch and clean, and I really feel that you should master that first and really feel what that's like to actually develop speed and put the bar's got to come back off the floor, meet the hips, it's going to come forward a bit and then taper back down to perform that S. And it's not this deadlift motion that you're just ripping off the floor and catching it and hoping for the best. So until you really master that, and really have the proper positions and range of motion to do a proper front squat or clean receiving position or proper overhead squat or snatch receiving position, then you got to kind of get your ducks in a row. So I wouldn't start jumping under these heavy loads when your pull is off. So it's very true that the better your pull in the snatch or clean is, the better your receiving position is going to be. So if you have this erratic pull that's all over the place and you don't know where it's going to land, and you're catching it 2 inches forward on one lift and 2 inches backward on the next lift, that means your receiving position is going to have to adjust pretty radically for each and every lift, which if you don't have the proper receiving position is putting you at all kinds of risk for injury, and you're really not going to master the lift because you're catching it differently every single time. So again, you got to get your ducks in a row here. And I really like the concept and philosophy of learning how to master the pull first. That doesn't mean concurrently and at the same time that you're not developing the receiving position and that you don't do the full lift in part of your warm-up drills and skills. But when you're loading up the bar and you're trying to do a good snatch or clean jerk workout, I would even recommend doing, working up heavy powers and heavy power snatch, heavy power clean. But at the same time, of course, you need to work on your weaknesses and develop the full lift at the same time. But you just got to have sort of the optimal balance of power lift versus the full lift. Now that's just the use for a beginner. Now when we're looking at more of an intermediate or advanced athlete, in that intermediate zone, they're kind of not as consistent with their technique. They're not doing the same lift every time. And as they transfer into doing the full lift, they might start playing with their timing a bit to where they're not finishing their pull correctly or adequately, and they're jumping under the bar, they're sneaking under the bar, and they might start jumping forward or too far back, things like that. So those inconsistencies are because they're either losing their start position, they're making some kind of error on the pull, they're not finishing the proper pull, not extending fully, and a lot of times it's simply because they're trying to get under the bar as optimally as possible for them. So they're either desperate, they're not confident, they may feel the weight, and so they adjust and counterbalance things, and so their timing is off. And so they begin to not finish the pull, and they end up getting crashed on. So the bar's left out forward, and they reach forward in the snatch, or they get crashed on in the clean. And that's where I like to put in the power version of the lift, so they remember how to finish explosively through that lift and dynamically, so they don't cut that pull. So I might even do a complex where it might be one power clean to one full clean, to where they feel what it's like to pull the lift as explosively quick as possible. But then the second rep, put the two pieces together to actually pull under as well. And so then you start to merge the two together. So that's where I really like to use it for, say, the intermediate lifter. Now in the advanced level lifter, and even beginner and intermediate, when they're starting adding more days per week or more tonnage and volume starts to happen, where we're doing more squats, more auxiliary exercises, pulls, things like that, and there's a lot of wear and tear, and the joints might get stiff, the muscles might get stiff, and it's just not real comfortable to get into the bottom position. Powers are a great plan B in order to get some volume in. You will notice that you can do a lot of pull work, a lot of pulls off the floor in various sequences off of blocks you can get away with doing a lot of practice there, more so than you can doing a lot of heavy strength training work or a lot of heavy squats. So you can still do a lot of practice there without too much wear and tear on the body. But more specifically for the advanced level lifter, let's say they start training and they're doing Monday, Wednesday, Saturday workouts, and they're doing the heavy full lifts and squats and things like that. Well, we can still get in more practice, but you can't, in the real world and without the use of drugs, you really can't go to full-blown max every single day on every single lift that exists. You got to start respecting your recovery, and you got to have focused exercises and lifts and focused intensities on various days of the week to allow for proper recovery and to prevent injury, and so you can have the best optimal practice possible instead of having just a bunch of so-so average days because you're not fully recovering. So power lifts are fantastic for review of the pull and continuing to practice the pull without beating your legs up, beating your body up, and taking weight off the bar, because you can't power snatch or power clean as much as you can do a full clean in, at least if you have good technique and you're past those beginner rookie stages. But that would force you to take weight off the bar to have a lower intensity and tonnage on Tuesdays and Thursdays perhaps, or even Fridays. So it's those in-between lighter days where you can still get some training and practice in and work that power lift versus the full lifts kicking your butt on every day of the week. So it's got other nice qualities as well. It's working speed strength. So you actually have to, your timing is going to be a little bit different on the pull for sure in terms of having to do a power versus a full lift, and you will actually have to pull the bar a bit higher and catch it faster. So the timing of that is actually abbreviated, and you actually got to learn to do the movement faster, which is actually a good quality to learn, because the more you start pushing the envelope of max absolute strength, you start losing some elements of speed, and you got to bring max strength and speed and explosive ballistic power together, and that's where power is really optimized, and that's how you optimize that curve and continuum of power development. So it's a nice intermediate to help you bridge the gap of doing the full heavy lift that you might be slowing down on, doing pulls and strength training work, and heavy squats and things of that nature. So you got your speed strength, you got reinforcement of the pull, you got active recovery actually. So each day you can get more frequency and exposure to performing the lift without beating yourself up and compromising that recovery. So the legs are not going to be as involved. You don't do the full overhead squat or front squat version of the lift. There's no loaded eccentric on that lift, so it's actually much less taxing. So I've used this elaborately with intermediate and beginning lifters, and then when my advanced level lifters need some breaks or lighter days, they work very nicely. And anytime someone looks beat up or stale, it's a great way to get them pulling explosively and fast again, and remember how that lift should really start to feel. So you can see there's a number of uses where it might fit in, and it's kind of a pompous, ignorant sort of attitude to think, oh, there's no powers of any kind anywhere in the programming. It's just knowing cause and effect and knowing the right time and place and where to put this. So don't force yourself into the full lift. If you're not ready for it, you don't have the proper positions, flexibility or positions and stability in those positions as a beginner lifter, or perhaps down the road when you just need a light day but you still want to get some good solid practice in. Likewise, if you're tapering or peaking for a meet, it's a great way to keep speed high and kind of recover from the heavy tonnage that you've been doing in the preparatory phases, and allows you to be sharp and fresh and fast for the competition day. So don't bastardize the power versions of the lifts. Use them when you need to, and just know why they might actually fit in your program.